boy, bumper to bumper. When a bad man won't try to double cross me, you tell me, say, make I day, my day, nothing they pass. So I bet my side like a Jerry toy. They don't go feet to use me, they toy. They go, yeah, the food steps, goy. Olu, I did for the boy. See me, you like the way you pop on me like a tata. With the enemy, knock it short. Ratatata, I say, this you just they bounce. You they counter, say, your name, no be choice. Me, I no go fall down. I remember one day for Mother Cat. Many bad man, them a come aside. And you prepare my table before them. Say, make a job, this a lot of even when I fall away, you still there, hold my hand. Lover of my soul, you know they break my heart. I go sing about your mercy, sing about your grace. Now you give us my rain every night and day. Now you made it proper, now you made it blessed. Forever you're my father, now you they give me rest. When I look around, I see your faithfulness. I bow down on my knees, cause now you will be the best. Daddy, oh daddy, this your loving, the sweet my belly. Oh daddy, this your crazy, the show for body. I will shout hallelujah, oh glory to Jehovah, hallelujah, lo maje. Attention. I will shout hallelujah, oh glory to Jehovah, hallelujah, lo maje. No tension, take it easy. Let go. There's a praise in my mind, I want people to know. There's a dance in my spirit, got to let it go. And the way they do me cannot come and keep it to myself. Me ole pa mora, me ole pa hallelujah mora, cannot come and keep it to myself. I will shout hallelujah, oh glory to Jehovah, hallelujah, oh my God. I will shout hallelujah, oh glory to Jehovah, hallelujah, oh my God. Shout it. Hallelujah, oh. Hallelujah. Victoria. Are you ready now? Praise God. Okay, we're all welcome to today's event, and we would like us to please advance to the front and occupy every empty seat in front of us before we start. So we can start from the very front, please.
Please, no MC seats in front of you. Please advance to the front. As we all know, today is an extraordinary session for the men of Global Harvest, and it's open to everyone. And we are all welcome to today's event. And without much ado, we will just begin with an open prayer by Brother Bo.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In Jesus' name, Father Lord, we thank you for today. We thank you for this opportunity to have this gathering. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance in today's meeting. Your wisdom and support we seek for today in this meeting. Help us to engage in meaningful discussions. And at the end of today, may we have reason to give you praise and adoration for a successful meeting today. In the mighty name of Jesus, we've prayed. Amen.
Praise the Lord. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for coming around. Our online viewers, we appreciate you. We recognize you. Thank you for always being there. This is to welcome our guest, Mr. Etim and Mr. Abimbola. We really appreciate your accepting our invitation. I know it's been some struggle for us to get this time right, but thank you for making it out to be with us. And to everybody, please, we appreciate your coming, and this is a kind of a series. It will be one of so many. We in Global Harvest, we are such that we want to ensure a kind of a wholeness, a complete development. Yes, we are going to serve God, but then we are going to make money. We are going to reap the fruit of the land, and that is why. How can we do this? We need information, because if you don't have information, there's so many things you will just be struggling with. And going to the Bible, 3 John chapter 1 verse 2 says, "Beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth." So that means God also is in line with this. We just have to prosper. There's so much we need to do out there. And these days we are very sure that you are going to be limited if you are not financially stable, if you are not have enough finances to do some basic things you need to do. The gospel needs money. We need to finance the gospel. We need to do so many things around. So please, I will encourage everybody. Let's listen. Let's ask questions. Let's understand the basics. And I believe it will be so much beneficial to all of us. Thank you very much, and welcome.
Thank you, the president. We are in for a very big time today, and the first session. The first session will be the first session will be dwelling on investing in Canada, making your money work for you, to be anchored by our brother Etim Bassi. And I want you to open up your heart to receive what he has to say. Make notes where necessary, and arm yourself with questions where you're not clear. Thank you. Please have the floor, Mr. Etim.
Praise God. I know I've been here before on a different account. It's good to be here on a different account again. Thank you so much for the invite. And I bless God that I'm sharing this with us. And I hope, just like, the president prayed, I hope we take a thing or two. So I will just jump straight into the presentation. I don't want to rush it. I have about 50 slides there. I'm not doing the 50. So I have my timer already. I would only, you know, do the best that I can do within the frame that I have. Now, we'll be looking at how money works. And please, the presentation today is 100% practical. This is not one of those financial talks that you would go home and feel confused. That's not the intention. The goal of this is to equip you with the right knowledge, the right information. And then we would weigh certain counter perspective and balance things. This is the house of God, the ground and pillar of truth. So no room for what might not benefit you. So how money works? Let's start with some basic rules, some possibilities you can get out of debt. If you haven't gotten into it, I would encourage you, do not go that route as much as possible. There is that convenience to get into debt, the primary one being credit card debt. There is good debt, there is bad debt. If you take debt for mortgage purposes, yes, that's a good debt. If you use your credit card to purchase a shoe that you like, it's a bad debt you're getting into because you are going into an asset that is 100% depreciating. It's never going to appreciate. Well, unless they are Nike sneakers. Anyways, it's likely not going to appreciate. You get the point I'm making. So, certain you can't. So you can also build savings. You can get on the pathway to financial independence. The state of financial independence is the state where you don't necessarily have to actively work the rest of your life from the day you decide to retire. Now, retirement is not about age. Retirement is more about how much you have saved. That's why you see athletes, they have a very short lifespan on the game. Average retirement between 28, maybe 35. The moment you get into 37, diminishing returns. You would go to Arabia or China, all of that. That's where you go to retire. It's normal. So no pun intended and no shading to anybody. But if Ronaldo is your guy, but I'm not going that direction. Anyways, so again, you are encouraged to take control of your finances. Remember, I prefaced this conversation by saying this is not one of those financial talks where you leave confused or you now say, let me go and try to plan. No, you take it right here. Take control of your finances. There are a lot of financial products that tend to take control away from you. They are very common. Some I would not be able to go into details just in the interest of time. Some few things that are really happening around us, especially people of color and people of our own background. Some of these things, they get me concerned, and it's not enough to get concerned and then stay in the comfort of my home and say, well, they will figure it out. I think it's about that time we have that conversation and straighten things. Give you some as we go on, I would chime in some examples. One, the first control you need to take is to pay yourself first. Yeah, we are in church, and then we are people of faith. After paying your tithe, and by the way, your tithe is actually you paying yourself. So when we say pay yourself, the first thing that should happen to your money is not paying of bills. It should be paying into your investment. Yeah, you might say, oh, but my income is not. We would come to that. First thing, we want to set the mindset straight. It's not so much about money, because if you do not know how it works, even if you are given $1 billion, it's just a matter of time you will blow it. Go and ask those who did not know how it works and they won a lotto. They still came back. they came back. If you don't know how it works, you will blow it. So pay yourself first. Secondly, adjust your priorities. Yeah, we come from a culture, what we share in common is that we come from a culture where when you travel out of the country, you are still taking care of certain things back home. But here is the rule. Even while I was praying on this particular line, priority, this is what I heard. Look at those that would be with you. God forbid, if you were to come down with something deadly right now, who are the people that would be with you and would carry the burden? I'm not saying those who would send love from abroad. There are people who would pray for you, fast for you from abroad. I'm not taking away those. I'm talking of those who would stand by you, who would be next to you. Those are your priorities. I'm not saying you shouldn't help siblings. Just to digress a little, I'm from a family of, my extended family, not my immediate family. I'm from a family of 5. I have a last born. And one day I told her, I think it was 2 years ago, I said, nobody is my responsibility. The only responsibility I have in Nigeria is my mother, my widowed mother. That's the only responsibility I have in Nigeria. Any other person, you are not anywhere close on my priority. And then we'll touch on emergency fund and what this fund could potentially be for. Your emergency fund is not intended that somebody has a problem in Nigeria, you take from that. No, your emergency fund is for your immediate family. Again, it ties back to priority. Amen. So it ties back to priority because we need to, number 3, change our thinking. We really need to adjust the mindset. I know we have strong ties with our folks in Nigeria. We love them. But be very realistic. The wife of a deacon in my local church went to Nigeria. When she came back, she was shocked. She said that there are some families she's been helping in Nigeria. When she got to Nigeria, they came to receive her at the airport. Now, here, if we come to the airport to receive you and we come with Lincoln or one expensive car, chances are we rented the car. So she was puzzled, like, are we now doing rental in Nigeria? And she just started thinking, and a lot of thoughts come into her mind. Reality dawned on her. This family that she has been paying, she has been assisting and all of that, they are driving a car that she does not drive. The wiper of, one of the wipers of our car here in Nova Scotia is faulty. And she came back and told my pastor, found people you know more. In other words, I'm not giving them money going forward. Why? These guys are more comfortable than myself. Now, that might not be like totally true in all, but based on her own experience, it is very, very true. I am not saying in any way, shape, or form that we shouldn't extend hands to help. No. The same list that you have, I have that list. I have on my WhatsApp. I have on my Facebook. Hardly a month that I don't remit in order to assist, but it's all priority. You know why? Because where we come from, everything is urgent. Whenever they reach out to you, they will tell you it is urgent. Huh? It's only urgent when they need that help. Yes. So everything is urgent. Let's not play into that. Priority. The priority is those that would be next to you if the mess hits the fan. Amen. So we can adjust our lifestyle. You know, if you were never drinking coffee in Nigeria, I'm just going to be plain with us. This is church. Like I said, it is the pillar of truth. I can play political correctness, but I can also lay it bare. This is a family. This is church. Church is not where we just try to. If you were never taking coffee in Nigeria, don't make it a habit here to start taking coffee. Oh, let me say it again. If you were never taking coffee in Nigeria, don't make it a new habit to take coffee, because that thing costs you some good money. Yes. I would sit with some families and tell them, what do you have in place? And they tell you, this is what we have, but we don't have money to free up to get a protection on the family. So, wow. How much do you pay for your car insurance? They will tell you. How much do you pay for coffee? I just take 2 cups. One in the day. Even if you're buying it for $1, that's $2 per day, $60 a month. Or you would say it's not expensive. I agree with you. But it's not expensive, but it's stopping you from getting a protection on your family, and the protection costs you $1.50 per day. So you don't know where to free up money to get the protection. Why? Because your money is all choked up. And you know how our money works. So we go from, the beginning of the pay period, we spend. Then when the paycheck comes, we take care of the recurrent bills, right? But the expenses from the beginning of the pay period till the payday, we did not pay the credit card yet. And credit card is a very stealthy thing. The interest rate is about 22%. Ooh. If your investment is not making 30%, don't go close to it. Yes, because the rate at which your money is growing should be higher than the rate at which your money is ebbing out. Credit card is a very big trap. So one of very mindful of that. Get additional stream of income. I strongly recommend that. Not by any means, but it's encouraged. Get something that is a business outside of employment. Employment has its place, but get a business if it's within your power. While I was thinking of all of this also, this particular point, for the nature of my business, what to say is not a problem. My prayer is to say what God wants me to say. I can do this presentation 4 hours, we are still on it. What to say is not a problem, but saying what God wants me to say. On this particular point, earn additional income. What came to my mind was, but Bible says, do not wear out yourself to make wealth. So how do you balance both? I'm not encouraging you to wear out yourself to the point where you come home, the remainder of you is the cranky part. And then somebody greets you, Daddy, and you're like, what? That shouldn't be that's not, your family does not deserve the spent portion of your day. That even to now spend it with them, it becomes difficult. Sometimes we can talk ourselves out of this thing. If you can still hear me, say amen. So we can talk ourselves out of it. I have 6 more minutes to go. Like I said, I'm not going to rush this. The goal is for us to get something, at least each person to get something before leaving here. Avoid credit card trap. Credit card is a very, very convenient trap. I'll tell you a very funny story. I know of a man, either in the flesh or out of the flesh, I cannot tell. When he landed in Canada, they gave him credit card. And then he was like, wow, is this card for real? He went, slotted it into a machine, and then withdrew from it. And then the same month he arrived. So he sent money to Nigeria, and his people were like, Oti Shele, with this He really got his credit messed up big time. Credit card is more deadly when you withdraw from it. Nothing should ever tempt any of us to try to withdraw cash from your credit card. Do not do it, no matter how tight your situation is, don't get into that zone. It's more deadly. It costs a lot. Set goals and have plans. Stick to the goal. Set goals, have a plan, stick to the goal. Stick to the goal with the family. So I'm going to rush here. So there are certain things you cannot control. There are some other things that are within our control. So you can see you cannot control the future of government benefit. I think this week the benefit changed, right? Yeah, you cannot control. For some, it went up. For some, it went down. I had some clients who reached out and said, oh, we want to increase our investment. Things have changed. Some others reached out to me and said, hey, we want to adjust. Things have changed. You don't have control over that. You don't have control over your employer and whatever they do. You don't have control over taxes. The tax table is not really available to you. CRA says it's none of your business. So they can always adjust the time. I have my timer here, though, don't worry. Okay. Thank you. So inflation, 7 years ago, it was about 2%. When we engage with clients, we always use 2%. Inflation is somewhere around. Yeah, the numbers. Because even all the factors that determine the numbers, some of the factors are being removed so that we can have a sane system. Wherever you are feeling the impact of all of this. So rising cost of things, which is tied to inflation, we have no control over that. The risk of an investment, you have no control, though you are encouraged to take reasonable risks, which we might not touch on that today, but let's get the key things. The things that you have control on. Have your own retirement plan. Your company might have a retirement plan. Have your own retirement plan. When we go more granular, you would see that vast majority of what your company retirement plan is invested in is onions. When we open it, it's onions, because some of what they invest in is vastly, especially those in government, majorly government bonds. A bit of Canadian equity, maybe about 10% go into US equity. If your money is ever going to make it inside a mutual fund, US is the market. I'm not saying it's one of the markets, it's the market. You should have enough inside US equity. But when you now have 50% inside Canadian government bonds, government has no competitor, so they are not trying to outperform anybody. It will still give the historical return. So you want to be mindful of that. Other sources of income, we mentioned that. Ways to reduce your tax. There's difference between tax avoidance and tax evasion. Evasion is a crime. Don't go close to it. If you're an employee, there is nothing to evade. It's, it's source deduction, by the way, for all you care. So that's not going to happen. But there are other ways you can take advantage of your RSP, make contributions from your place of work, give to charity. And like my tax specialist said, if you want to increase your tax return, tell your employer to pay you less. I said, that's never going to happen. So, but it's one of the options, asking them to pay you less. If you know so much about the numbers, there are times that you would apply. Especially if you are collecting something, your family is receiving something from government. There is a terrible salary increase that might tilt that table. Government would stop that contribution to your family. Then you pay more tax over a 1,200 increase. Meanwhile, you can send them a message and say, I reject that increase. Okay. So maximize your savings, save more, diversify your investments. Pay yourself first. And this is a calculator that would help you determine that. And then 3 things here, 3 major accounts. There is emergency fund, which we made mention of a couple minutes ago. There is short term, there is long term. These 3 accounts, we must have them. The emergency fund typically holds like 2 months of your expense. it holds like 2 months of your expense. So if you look at, it could be mortgage, it could be your rent, your phone bills, and all of that. Just do a 2-month calculation of it. It could be like 2,005 or 3,000 a month, 6,000. Your emergency fund should have that. Now, the name emergency does not mean when you are told in Nigeria that it's an emergency, this person is having a heart failure. Heart failure, did it happen suddenly or there was a build up to it? If it is suddenly, yes, it's an emergency. But if there was a build up to it, it is not an emergency. Sorry, I would only tell you from the numbers perspective. There are things that are emergency. The emergency is for your immediate family, touching husband, wife, children. That's the emergency. But something coming from home, they call it emergency, but your emergency fund is not meant for that. Because you might quickly extend that help, and then an emergency builds up at home. Now your base is exposed. Remember our priority. If it happens, who is going to stand by you? They will pray from abroad, but who is going to stand by you right there? That is the emergency. That's who it's meant for. Short term, it could be, if you have a goal within a short time frame, and then you have maybe your vacation fund, you want to put it aside somewhere, you can use short term. But the long term ones, they are the ones that you can monitor them quarterly or semi-annually or annually, but you have no business touching them. These 3 accounts are a must that we have them. Consistency also, I would skip this. The advantage of having your money stay long in the market. The cost, there is a cost of waiting. If you wait up until a certain age to achieve a particular financial goal, it costs you more in order to catch up with that goal. There is the power of compound interest. Compound interest is like a wave. So if you go surfing, all you just need to do is position yourself, jump in. The rest on how you move, you are not the one doing all of that. It's the wave that carries you on. That's how compound interest works. Yours is make the necessary contributions. The compound interest, the compounding factor. Now, compound interest is a two-edged sword. It can grow your money if you're on the investment side. It can destroy your money if you're on the debt side. So because there is compounding debt also, the rule of 72, I don't want to bore you with these ones. Those who are engineers in the room, we can gather later and then go through this. That's debt. That if you are not in debt now, and I don't say you necessarily have to get into it. If you have the money, fine. Especially mortgage. The reason we are big on mortgage, my guy here would continue that side. The reason we are big is it's like the elephant in the room. Your rental fee, your apartment rental fee is like the biggest pay. It's like the biggest expense in the month, right? The same goes with the mortgage. Mortgage tends to be the biggest expense. The goal is to get rid of that mortgage. I might stay on this particular topic. On the numbers side, he would discuss the investment side. I'm just talking of the numbers side. The goal is to get rid of it as soon as possible. There is a common practice that is kind of coming now, and it's becoming prevalent amongst us. It's this idea of refinancing. Refinancing is like postponing the evil day. If you are refinancing to consolidate and get a lower interest rate, that is good. But if you are refinancing to buy a car, like I was offended with somebody last week, that's a deadly, demonic idea. for you to increase your debt, elongate the time of your debt, just to buy a car. To what goal? A guy who is about the same age with me is trading a car. The question I asked is, this is a 2019 car. Why are you getting rid of it? What happened to your salary? Oh, I got a job. You got a job with government. I don't think they are paying you 200K. I doubt if they are paying you 150. So what's the big deal here? Sometimes someone has to just burst that bubble for us. And like, just get out of it. Said, this car, how much equity do you have on your current car? He said, about 10,000. So if we trade in your car and we collect 10,000, what do you want to buy? Lexus 2023. I said, dude, that's silly. When we see something smells, walks, and looks silly, let's not be afraid to call it out. It's really silly. So when we finished going, what's the interest rate? He got the car 2019. Interest rate was around 3-4%. I said, dude, don't go close to car today. It's 8.99. I only changed one 3 weeks ago. The reason I changed is because I'm expecting another baby. I thought you would clap. That's the only reason I changed. And guess what? When I saw 8.99, just spoke with my wife. We are not keeping this car for more than 10 months. This debt, it has to go. 8.99, that's 9%. That's pretty too high. You must have an investment that is behaving at 16% consistently for you to convince me that you can keep 8.99 that is ebbing away your money. Remember, it's how money works. So let's not get into, let's not count our eggs before they are hatched. If you are at the building stage, your hands need to be dirty in a good way. When we get to the cash out phase, yes, the kids have left the house. The house you bought 30 years ago, you've paid it all off. You have this, you can buy whatever car you want to buy. You can live the way you can enjoy it there. But now, it's the time to get on the grind. So, as much as possible, I want to, my general position is to frown at refinancing, because vast majority of those who are doing it now have no clue about it. Some refinance and then eventually sold the house. So what's the profit remaining? There is no much profit. You say, oh, I just refinanced it 2 years ago. Who advised you? What did you do with the money? I wanted to make a down payment for a rental property. Who is advising you on this? Has your income changed? No. So all you are doing is spreading debt and elongating the time thereof. You've not really made much progress in that. So let's be very mindful of this. I think I'll just talk for 2, maybe 3 more minutes, and then. So this is the bad news about compounding interest. I'm not going to touch debt. If anybody has debt and you have, multiple debts, we can come up with a debt stacking process to help you get out of it faster. Get out of debt as fast as possible. It would give you peace of mind. Peace. Peace of mind. And I speak peace to every one of us in Jesus' name. There is nothing as sweet as having peace of mind. All right, so I would avoid some of these common mistakes, as you can see there. Make sure you are on top of your things. Buy the right kind of life insurance. This is where I would stop for today and ask questions. Take questions. Buy the right kind of life insurance. There's a bunch. Some of you might even be agents, and they're about to recruit you and whatnot. There's a bunch of legal things out there. They are legitimate, don't get me wrong, but they are not moral. I'll take that again. They are legitimate, but they are not moral. When we begin to review the content, you realize that there is a bunch of things out there, and it is your responsibility to get the right kind of knowledge. It's your family's responsibility, and I pray we don't fall prey of all of these things after working so hard and something comes from nowhere to chop off our money. That will not be our portion in Jesus' name. So I'm just going to take some few questions. Any question? Of course, I'm not halfway into my slides, but we can't go there. Any questions? Pastor, that looks intimidating. I was hoping. All right, sir.
All right. Thank you, Etim.
You're welcome, sir.
So you are told us that we cannot do anything. Okay, take the credit card, for example. That, well, one of the things I had wanted to do for my credit card a long time ago was to just cut it off. I mean, I don't need it. I don't want to use it. I don't want to be tempted in any way to use it. If I don't have anything in my debit card, I just leave it like that until I have to buy. But I know that there are people that just coming in, and what we have been told is that you have to build credit, credit score to ensure that when you want to buy a house or you buy this, you first of all check on your credit. I also know that there are jobs that you take, and that one of the things they do is they check on your credit score. And it's part of what they use in giving you the job at the end of the day. What do you say to that, using the credit? That's one. The second thing is, you have said don't use credit card, and don't buy what you cannot buy, what you don't have money to buy using credit card because of the current interest rate on credit card. That you only advise you do that if your investment is yielding double of what the credit card is billing you. Now, where do you get the kind of investment that will give you double of interest rate?
They don't exist. It's a political way of telling you not to go that direction.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, they don't exist. If somebody comes to promise MMM, not here in Canada, but they don't exist. No guaranteed investment. Even the GIC that you have from your banks today is still Tangerine offering the highest 5.5. That's the highest you can see. If anybody tries to market multi-product line to you and give you maybe 5.7. But inflation, remember, inflation is somewhere around 7 now. So your money is going to die twice. The first death that the money dies is against inflation. The second death of your money is because you invested 1,000, it has become 1,100. Uncle Sam will collect his own tax. So it's going to die twice. Now, for the credit card, on one hand, I'm not a big fan of Dave Ramsey, who would say don't have credit card, cut it off and all of that. The system we run, it's a credit-driven system. But let's be very careful, because the same bank who gives you credit card for 22% is offering you an investment for 6%. What do you think is interesting to them? Your 6% investment? No, it's a 22% debt. That's why you receive notice. Increase your credit limit. Just click OK and then it will be done. You don't need to come into the bank. 10 years ago, you have to physically go and apply for credit limit increase. But now, the moment you go from a student status to a PR and they see that you have a permanent SIN, you start receiving that notice. The moment they see you have recurrent income coming into your account, you start receiving that notice to increase your credit limits. Some will tell you different things. I'm not saying don't believe them, but balance it with a counter perspective. You need the credit to build a history. By the way, to build your credit history is not only through credit card. Your phone bill builds your credit history. Whatever it is that you are servicing recurrently, revolving debt. that helps to build your credit history. But credit card is one of the major ones to build. The goal here is whatever you are buying, make sure you have within the next 20 days to settle your credit card so that we are not hard on one another. Make sure you have that plan. But if it is something that your credit card is not going, let me just go personal with you. Every month, I try to review my family's finances. Some months when I skip and I come to check, I'm realizing that I'm owing 2,500. I turn to my wife. Amazon is delivering something every now and then. We have kids, so there is always something coming. I turn to my wife and I'm like, your credit balance, you are owing 2,000 also. Oh my God, how come? I said, are we not eating? Are we not doing this? But whenever money comes, we settle the other major ones. That's how the bank the system wants us to be very convenient. That's how the thing starts building. Before you now know, you're like, oh boy, we are going to book flight for Mama. Mama is coming. Mama's flight, 1,002. What's the balance? 4,000. Oh, wow. And then it keeps going up because some of these one-off activities, they would creep in. They will just creep in and then they will collect that chunk. And since you booked that flight for your mom, you have not balanced your credit still. So that's that side we are telling you to try to avoid. Because if you were saying, I want to have that 1.5 in my pocket before telling Mama to come, you will still tell Mama, hold on, Mommy. Hold on. So that's how we can marry the side that Pastor is coming from and also trying to build your credit history. We have to just build that discipline and be honest with ourselves, because overall, when money pressure comes into the family, the love we have for our spouse would be on trial. Yeah, we don't want money pressure to come. So review it, make effort. You might just have to squeeze yourself somewhere in order to get out of 20% interest. Yeah. I don't know if that helps, sir. You're welcome, sir. Yes, sir, President.
Thank you very much for the presentation. Just want to ask, how can one reduce your taxes? Looking at it from a salary earner and also from a business person.
Yeah, of which both of them I am. I'm a salary earner and I'm also a business person. Not only so, we have another family business. Business expense is what can reduce your business tax, your employment tax, your contribution to RSP, giving to charity. And the third one, which I don't like, asking your employer to reduce your earning. It's a valid one, but it's rarely taken. But if you know your numbers very well, and you know that this extra 1,000 they put on your salary has destroyed the table for you, you can tell them to take it back, and then you go back to where you were. But it's expense. There is no other way, and those are the two. Those are the few legitimate ways that CRA has given us. Any other way, and let me mention this for those who are business owners and who are planning to go into business. I pray that the Lord would help us stay honest. Business owners, because you have the privilege of holding your expenses till year end, don't throw too many things that were not part of it. You see, being a business owner is what scares me and helps me to be more of a Christian, especially when I'm reporting my expenses and it's only me and the Holy Spirit. And thank God for the kind of wife that I have. She will say, this one, I would have to explain. So for business owners, keep it clean. Keep it plain. God will still bless you either way. Yeah, it shouldn't be that you have an Achan in your boat. It could just be some of those line items that you put there. No, just keep it clean. You will still get blessed. Yeah, there is a question from the back.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Okay.
What's your name, sir?
My name is Tayo.
All right, sir. Sorry, before you go, does that help you, sir? Yeah. All right, sir.
All right. I am a very ardent follower of Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
But you said something that's, it's in line with what he normally says. Now, okay, if you don't have cash, if he can advise you, if you don't have cash for it, then you don't need it.
Correct.
While that is true, you also mentioned that all the good things of life that we want to enjoy, we can delay gratification.
Correct.
Let the children be away from their house. Much as that is true, do I want to wait for the next 30 years to be able to drive a nice car? It's this is a topic that me and my wife would discuss almost every day. As a matter of fact, we have discussed it this morning before I came here. So it's always difficult to balance. You want to live a good life. At the same time, you don't want to get into the debt circle. Because, I mean, the moment you get into it, you're just in it. Yeah. So it's best to stay away from it. True. But I just want you to throw some light into balancing it. Because, just like you said, I don't want to wait for the next 30 years. In the next 30 years, I'll be 74. So, is it at 74 that I want to drive a brand new car? Surely not.
I totally agree with you. This morning, I would respond
to
you.
Sorry, I still have another question. No, there are two questions. So I want you to throw in.
Because of time, he would be taking it. In the interest of time, let's just take one. Okay. Unless the other one is bigger than this one.
No, it's insurance related,
If we have more time so that we go around. This morning, my upline stopped by at my place to present a gift to us. And he said to me that he's heading to New Brunswick. What is he going to do in New Brunswick? There is a client who is retiring and is having a small retirement party. She's retiring at 55. And then the husband, they used to be in the military together. But this is where it started getting the more interesting. That the wife got an inheritance from the mother of about 400,000. And then the husband, he had a house close to a lake that he had paid off. And then the late mother had a life insurance, 140. So they had money from inheritance. Now, I always emphasize that. When we try, remember, we are replanted. We uprooted ourselves from Nigeria and replanted ourselves here. So we are like the grafted ones, those who grew here. And then father worked in government, mother worked in government. My father died at 65. If he was here in Canada at 65, we should have collected good money from life insurance if he had a good life insurance. No matter how small it is, even it was 100K. So if I was just graduating school and out of 100K, minimalist life, you have only 2 children, 50K. 50K is good enough for a down payment for me. So that is what is missing from you and I when we came to replant ourselves here. So we probably had spent 30, 40 years in Nigeria, replanted ourselves here. We will pay the price because it will be on our back that our generations will now build upon. We are the foundation. We are not the building. So for a foundation, it is not convenient. Huh? Yes, so we are the one to pay. That's where, Mr. Tayo, right? Yeah, that's where it becomes painful. Now, I'm not saying you overly deny yourself of the luxury of life. No. No. But Yoruba will say, Niwaba, that's try to minimize it because we don't have it. Right? We don't have it. He's a realtor. When you move from house to house, there are houses that you would see that you say, oh, it's a salary earner that is selling this house. There are houses you would see, you would know that somebody who is selling this house built the house from inheritance money. Yes, inheritance money, they will tell you they are not using regular fittings. You know, you would see it, marble here. Not that they are all shiny and all of that. No, it is when you get in, you will now find out that, but all the houses here are for 600. This one is saying 850. Kilo day. It's when you go inside, you now begin to see, inheritance. That is not, a salary earner does not go saying, I want gold in this one, I want this. No, you tell the realtor, just find me something. Yeah. It's not bad in and of itself, but we are laying a foundation. My earnest prayer is that our children will grow up to appreciate this. And if God blesses us quickly, while we are laying the foundation, we might also be part of the building a bit. But we are not going to really, our joy would just be that I laid the foundation. Yeah, that would be our ultimate joy. I don't know if that helps. Yes, sir.
Praise God. My name is Bayer, and I actually just want to briefly bring you back to the issue Pastor touched on. And I'm not a professional, but I think from my studying of the credit thing, now it's good if you have cash to do a lot of things. Don't get into the advice. Don't get into debt. If you have cash, use it. But from what I understand in building credit is, from experience, okay, you go into Walmart and Walmart says, oh, they have this credit card for you, and once they give you, what's the limit? Maybe 3,000. You go into your bank gives you a credit card, the limit 2,000. You get another credit card from somewhere that maybe 5,000. Now, this you now have a total of 10,000 credit limits. If you have cash, don't use the cash. Spend from the credit card. Then put it back. Over time, you will be able to gain your credit score increases because they see that there's also a percentage they say do not go above. But just make sure you are not going into debt, but you are just trying to run your credit cards. If you like max, if you the one you have 5,000 and you need to pay for, use the 5,000. But like say 20 days or something, pay it back and just continue like that. And I think that's how people build the high scores of 900, and they keep amassing these credit cards. You see people who have credit cards with a limit of over 100,000, and they use it. But there's cash from somewhere. They know that they will be able to replace. So it's not a question of using a credit card. It's knowing when to repay and keep your available credits intact.
That's true. I totally agree with you.
Yes.
Thank you for the comment. I totally agree with you. The in a very practical sense, some that get soaked into credit card debt, they did not intend it. They did not. And like you rightly said, if you have the 10,000 and you have to spend from your credit. But if you now get into, you are postponing and saying, okay, you are making minimum payments. That's a very common one. Sir, the question you asked or the comment you made, it's true, but it's not so common. The one that is very common is people having 3 credit cards and then they are making minimum payments on each of them. That person is already in a mess. So that one is a very common one. But to have the money, he's right. If you have the money and you want to make a purchase, use your credit card to make the purchase and then fund it back. But if you are waiting and say you want to service them piecemeally, you are really getting into, because again, the goal is to make things convenient for you. And the end game is to get you all messed up. Yeah, so but if you have the money, by all means. So I will just take your second question and that will be it. I believe my time is a lot more. Oh. I'm not the one controlling time,
Okay,
Presido.
I think
I know he has a...
This has to be the last one, so that we can make use of time.
Thank you very much, Mazi. Thank you, sir. My name is Adedamola.
You're welcome,
and I sit on the table with Mr. Tayo regarding that, delay gratification and all of those things. After working so hard in Nigeria, and we have been grafted here, and suddenly we are... it's bad enough that the system is a very huge leveler, and then you're working in the close on. But thank you for that feedback. It really provided a lot of context because you are rebuilding something afresh at the end of the day. So honing that reality somewhat helps the mindset with the expectation and how to run with it.
True.
But still on that credit structure, what we've seen here, for those of us that are relatively new, is that there are certain things that if you understand the time value of money, opportunities present themselves, occasionally, sometimes very unusual, and then you want to leverage them, take advantage of that instance, and then run with it. Okay, I like that instance you gave regarding the car. Yeah. For that person, person's risk appetite is quite huge. But for people who took a good car at 5%, like you said, they got a better deal than someone who's coming at 9. Yeah. Tendency is whoever is coming now will most likely get a better deal than who's coming in 2024. Now,
we are not sure.
Tendency.
Yeah, there is tendency. Yeah.
There's the global economic outlook.
That's true.
You are a professional in that space. You most likely, well, I understand faith, but then let's face,
Pastor is saying it will come down.
Let's face the science of things.
It has to come down.
Let's face the science of things. I like the sincerity that we brought here. So now my point is that in such instances, right, when it is, in quotes, absolutely, or let me say financially wise, right, to leverage certain types of credit exposures, right? What, maybe not the specific metrics, and I totally love that opinion around prioritizing the structure you put around priority. It makes perfect sense. But when it comes to income vis-a-vis leveraging chances now, right? Take, for instance, your monthly net income of, say, $2,000. You have a credit card of $2,000. You see something that you can take for, say, $4,000 or $3,500, but it will cost you the next 3-4 months to settle off the credit exposure. Yep. Based off your own maths now, you've done the maths, it looks good on a face value. Is there a science around it? I'm just interested in the science now. The calculation pretty much may be straightforward for those people who are interested, but I think the way you approach these concepts makes it a lot more usable for so many of us that may not be core on finances and doing all these core maths, right? Is there a science around thinking through that type of thing and taking advantage of such opportunities?
I appreciate the feedback.
Sorry, before you answer. Let's just take the last one so that you answer everything at once. Please, your second question.
Okay. So, but like I said, my second question is around the insurance. There are different types.
Yep.
We have a term, we have a whole life policy.
Universal life, yeah.
Now, the term policy, we know is temporary. Let's say for the next 25 years or till your age 70. It comes with all of the limitations. You can take a loan against a term policy.
Stay right there. When you say you use the term a loan, who owns the money?
No, I mean taking, for example, a bank loan against the term policy.
Yeah, it's still loan. Remember, the goal, we want to come out of debt as much as possible.
Yeah.
Whatever takes us back into it, no matter how it smells, we want to be very careful. Right? We want to be very careful. I can engage you after this. If your question is tying into whole life, universal life, term life.
So I'm looking at a situation whereby if you have a universal life,
Yeah.
you can pull out a loan from it.
Do you have a contract? Do you have a contract?
Yes.
Do you have one?
Yes, I do.
I would love to review it with you for free.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay.
I would review it with you. After the review, I will now ask you this question, and you will be the one to answer it.
Okay.
Does that help?
Okay.
Yeah, I would love to hear your answer, and somehow, maybe our next presentation, we would not discuss the details, but we'll just say, at the end of the day, this is what we concluded, that this is what is good for us. So just to have a counter perspective on what you have, but I would love to review your contract. Now, you used a term, leveraging. Leveraging is actually a financial term where you take a low interest money to put in something that will potentially bring you a higher interest. I sit with families a lot, and some things are done out of good intention. The things we do is just to put our families first and, for the betterment of the family. But sometimes it goes awry. Sometimes it goes south. There is a family I sat with. This guy took an RRSP loan. In and of itself, nothing wrong with it. But the problem is they invested the loan in an index fund. So the disadvantage of index fund is not actively managed. So when the market is pointing down, it just has a free flow with it. Nobody, no fund manager, portfolio manager goes to reshuffle it to help point it up. So this was index fund of 4 years ago, where the major thing that was driving the market was technology fund. You and I know what has happened to Twitter. We know what has happened to Facebook, that went from Facebook to Meta, and then laid off some staff, thousands of staff. That tells you that that's a major thing, right? Now, a lot of people who were in the index fund, because you are paying a low management fee and it's passively managed, the duty is on you. Yes, after you finished your 8 to 4 or 9 to 5 and dealing with the kids and then attending to madam or madam rubbing your back, what it requires is you have to open your computer and monitor the market yourself, because that's what you paid for. So those who monitor, they jump ship. So when people jump ship, they leave the people who are not monitoring it. So anyways, this guy took 70,000, and then he's been servicing it for about $400 every month. And he said, man, this thing is really bad. I don't know what to do. And then it pointed down. I've prayed with my wife concerning certain clients, but I had to bring this guy's case to the prayer altar more than once. I think I prayed for him 2 or 3 times. That God has to help this investment to point up, because this guy is in a mess. So the loan that he took was for 70,000, and then it came down to 54,000. So he was looking for the difference. Now he had a recurrent servicing of the debt. He was paying $200 initially. It grew up to $400. Now, I'm not trying to use a bad situation to paint what you are trying to say. We take loan. It's mortgage that we do. It's loan that we use to service it, right? And then we build equity from it. But the goal is to tie to Dave Ramsey. The goal is, let's be like the Jewish people. Do everything to come out of debt. Do everything to come out of debt. It makes more sense. And it reduces the pressure on you. A lot of the products we have out there, they sell them, they look very beautiful, nicely packaged. But when we go through everything at the end of the day, it's taking you back to Egypt. It's taking you back to Egypt. You have to service the trade master. So thank God he called me and said, guy, the thing came up to 68. Sorry, not I said 70,000, it's 75,000. It came to 68, 69. I said, if you have 6K, pay off this thing, and then be grateful that you begin to save your 400 every month. And he says, should I wait a little more to save it to come? I said, my own prayer has been answered, at least. He now says, maybe he should just hang around, that he does not have 6K, but he has 3K. If it can just meet him halfway. I told my wife, let's pray for him, that God should help things to meet him. Genuinely, sincerely, I prayed for him. Because it's a huge miracle that he came. Because he was asking me, so that this thing came up. I said, Oga, I'm not going to entertain anything that would make you want to now say, if it's coming up, which means it's going up. I say it's technology fund. Nothing new has really happened. Elon Musk now wants to do a physical fight with this guy. Nothing new has really happened. So be grateful for the miracle, cash out of it, and then save your money. So there is good debt, there is bad debt, but ultimately, I'm a huge fan of you becoming financially independent first. It clears a lot. I close with this. We were living in Bedford. Pastor, we were living in Bedford. I sold the idea to my wife. If we sell Bedford house, we move to a very decent place within Nova Scotia. I give you an open check. If you want to resign next year and retire from 9 to 5, you are free. Of course, I have to give my wife something in return. Oh no, we cannot move out of Bedford. I say, consider it with early retirement. And then we prayed about it, and then we made the move. We moved away from Bedford, we moved to Enfield. Someone was like, what? Is that him going through midlife crisis? What's happening? I said, wait. And then my wife approached me in March. Says, babe, I want to resign. I said, you have my blessing. I told you already that if you move, you have the free will to resign. That is the kind of life I am envying. And that's what I want to encourage us as much as possible, to get ourselves, just enjoy that freedom. It is sweet. Me, I'm still working, right? So I'm praying to God. I typed my resignation letters ahead of time. Oh, this sounds like a preaching now. We have come to the end of our presentation. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you so much, sir, for having me. I would love to listen to the next speaker. Thank you.
So, quick one before you sit down. Before you sit down. Etim is my financial planner, as in my family financial planner. So we hit it well from the beginning, and so I trusted him. That's why I asked that we agree for him to come. So I know he will not tell us lies. One other thing I would have loved that you will also let us know is, because I know a lot of people are having children these days, and they seem to be collecting money from the government. So have one this year, wait for another 9 months, have another one, and just keep having like that. So please,
Sir,
can you
I
help
won't
us?
allow that comment to go without me even. Your question is important. There are solutions now. I've engaged with my doctor. He said if I want to fire blanks, I can fire blanks. Yes. I'm considering that very well.
Okay.
So when next you see me.
Okay, so why some people are not ready to start firing blank yet? And I know their government is paying out child benefit. I know one of the things we did with you from the beginning was to start investing our own daughter's benefit in education, the RESP, and that we were investing it in a bank before we met you, and then when we met you, had a discussion with us, and we moved it into an investment plan. And since then, I check it every day. I check it every month. They send me the statement every month, and I know it's doing a lot better than I would have put it in bank. In bank, I think they were giving us 1% or so at the time, but it's doing really great well now. So one of the things I would like that you do also is, I think it's important that we take advantage of that too. We may not have that time of doing all that now, but I would like that you make yourself available. If you have people that will talk to you on that.
Not a problem.
Yeah, thank you.
Not a problem. This is church. Even in my local church, I don't do marketing inside church. Not that I don't have confidence in what I'm doing. I just leave church to be the ground and pillar of truth. And even when we exchange numbers we trust God that we would not be the kind of people that, I want to be that Nigerian, that anybody you would say, oh, if you go to do anything with him, no, you have peace of mind. Before we came, Nigeria had a bad name. If you have never traveled with your Canadian passport, try to travel with it once. And then on your way back, try to present your Nigerian passport. And then you will see the difference in a name. But I'm trusting that we would rebuild trust amongst ourselves. God would help us to trust one another. We are in the same WhatsApp group. Probably I've greeted him once or twice. He's one of us. He will tell us, expose some few things to us. But we trust God that we would get to that point where we would have no fear and doubts, patronizing one another. The Chinese community is different. The Filipino community, if a Filipino has me as their advisor and they meet a Filipino, they will just say, him, this my brother, I'm moving my thing over. I would understand with them. Chinese people, the same. They say, I just want to move it over because of this, my brother. But the opposite is the case amongst us. And I say it to my shame also. But God would help us build trust. In the name of Jesus, God would help us build trust. Where somebody would just say, oh, who is the person? Tayo, Abimbola. Oh, don't worry. Abimbola got you covered. He would protect. That's my prayer. We will do RESP when necessary, but we have a lot to learn today. Don't worry. You have blisters in your brain. By the time you are done today, over to you, sir. Oh, you come on.
Are we getting blessed? Are we getting blessed? Yeah. If we're getting blessed, can we show by giving him a resounding applause? I'm able to say that blessed are you because what you are hearing today, and it will help us make informed decisions and avoid some pitfalls. In Jesus' name. Without wasting time, I know time is fast spent, but it's value added. We're going to be listening to Mr. Akin Abimbola, and he will be taking on real estate. Please give him a round of applause.
Praise the Lord. First of all, thank you, Mr. Etim. I really enjoyed your presentation. I'm happy to be here. I got value added. And thank you, Pastor George, for this opportunity. This is a beautiful platform. I've known Pastor George for a while, and he's an amazing person. We've had a few conversations, and as a matter of fact, though, when you were looking for a new space, I was also actively searching, and I was very glad when he gave me the good news. I got such a beautiful place. So, thank you very much. Let me see. Okay. As you know, my name is Akintunde Abimbola. When I introduce myself to Canadians, I always tell them our names are stories. Like, my name is a story. And in Africa, we believe our names are maps to our history. We're able to, get where we're coming from, and that's what motivates us and inspires us to be the great people that they know that we are. So I tell them, Akitunde is the courage of a warrior has returned, and they're always amazed. So yeah, that's it basically. So okay, real estate, investing in multifamily apartment properties in Canadian real estate market. And as you know, I'm Akitunde once again, and I'm a realtor with Exit Realty Metro, and we have a huge repository of real estate knowledge, people with diverse skills, and we've had amazing stories. We've had records of being number 3 in North America, in terms of providing professional real estate services. And I want to ask an interesting question. How many of you here, while coming here, saw red cars? And how many red cars did you see? You saw a red car, okay. It's just a tricky question. I won't be surprised if nobody saw it. Do you know why? You were not looking for red cars. But if you were looking for red cars, you would. I can tell you actively, I saw 5 red cars. That's because I deliberately looked out for the cars so that I could make it as an example in this presentation. So where does that bring us? That brings us to having a vision. When you have a vision, let's say my vision is looking out for red cars. So I set out to look out for red cars. So it makes me focus. So you focus, you're actually looking for it, and it's kind of pings your curiosity. The reason why I use this example is because you putting up this program, that means you're curious about something in real estate. So that's an amazing thing. Thank you for putting this together. So if you want to put up a round of applause, that's just thank you. Okay, I took the liberty of trying to reconstruct the initial topic so that it can have a more deeper context from my perspective, and that is unlocking the wealth in multifamily real estate. So, what is real estate really? People talk about real estate. I remember the first time I even heard the term real estate was maybe when I was 12 or thereabouts. We used to watch this Patrick Doyle program. I don't know if you remember. I think maybe Channel 5 or something like that back in Nigeria. So when they talk about real estate, we subconsciously, when we see the word estate, we just think of a bunch of identical houses in an enclosed space, so to speak. But it's a lot more than that. We could look at it from the historical perspective. Estate is an English translation of an old French word, estat, which means status. Then we can go ahead by looking at real as well. Real is a Latin word meaning existing, actual, or genuine. So you'll not be going out of line when you can make it a synonymous phrase with existing status, actual status, genuine status. That's just to give you the historical context why they're able to come up with a universally accepted term. Okay, so if we want to define estate, professionally, different people have different definitions for estate, really. Lawyers define it in a different way. Back in Nigeria, I was an estate surveyor in Valor, and contextually, we define it by saying is a legal entity which denotes the quality of rights an individual possesses in land. But if I want to use a layman term so that it's watered down for everybody to actually understand, we can say real estate can be described as land plus anything growing on it, or anything attached to it, or anything erected on it, excluding things that can be removed from the land without causing injury to the land. That means um, a house built on a land is real estate, but the heat pumps attached to it is not real estate. That's just property. So you could take it out, and it doesn't give any injury to the land. People change their heat pumps every time, change their HVACs and stuff like that. So that's just to give you the context. So, what are the types of real estate? Residential, which is basically single family. I'm sure you're very conversant with that. And oh, sorry, no, I should have asked first. Hope nobody was affected by the flood yesterday. I didn't know it was that serious until I got the notification, the alert, and hope everybody's fine. You might do well to check your basement because some leakages might be seeping somewhere, so you need to check it out. So, commercial. This is where multifamily actually falls. Although multifamily can be a single family, that's when it's like maximum of 4 units. But we know the end game is a commercial venture because it's primarily intended to bring profit. But in this context, it's going to fall under commercial. And other properties that fall in commercial are I don't know if you guys noticed, maybe, obviously you know Killam properties, right? You see some Killam properties, see REIT. That means Real Estate Investment Trust. It's basically a kind of maybe company or organization that deliberately build properties for commercial venture, like to make profits. And Killam is one of the top ones that provide for multifamily thing. Crowdfunding. This is where multiple people come together. They pull resources together to invest in real estate as well. Then we have the industrial. I'm sure you're aware of it. Warehouse and manufacturing, even assembly plants, maybe for UPS or DHL or whatever, they're categorized under industrial. Then bare land. When you see bare land, you might just say it's just a bare land, but I don't know if anybody here worked in Lagos Island. If you remember, opposite the First Bank headquarters, there's a lot of bare land there that I don't want to call them agberos, the guys there, indigenous or whatever, they make a lot of money from parking cars. I think people, before I left Nigeria, maybe people were paying 500 per day or thereabout. They even were so innovative by washing your cars for you, making extra money. So bare land can be an asset in different ways. Some use them for event centers, and stuff like that. Then mixed use. I don't know if anybody here knows the Bus Plaza by, where Halifax just opened our store, or where Kalisimbi is. People live upstairs as residential, but we have commercial at the ground floor. So that's a mixed use property. Then, this is blocking. My image is, okay, yeah. Special purpose. These are stadium, parks, and zoo. Yeah, majorly, they're usually owned by either big organizations or government. If it's for government, they're not too hard on making profit. But if it's for private organizations, obviously it's all about profit. Okay, so what is a multi-family apartment really? I read in bracket, is either a real estate or real property. The real has to be emphasized to show what you're actually talking about. This is a type of housing where separate housing units for residential inhabitants are next to each other or stacked on top of one another in one or more buildings, usually within one complex. It can range from a duplex to a high-rise building. I don't know if you remember back in Nigeria, we like talking about duplex. My friends live in a duplex. Our understanding of duplex back then was basically a house that has maybe stairs in it. Well, when people go here, you now understand that they mean, from the name duplex, you have separate wings and stuff like that. So, yeah, that can be categorized as a multifamily apartment as well. So, is real estate an asset or a liability? It sounds like a silly question, but if you really think about it, is real estate an asset or a liability? Yes. By our subconscious, we assume every real estate is supposed to be an asset. Yeah. But in many situations, it's not. An asset is what you own, and liability is what you owe. Trying to tie up with what my brother Etim said here, talking about debts and all that, through credit card and all that. So if you own good credit, that's an asset to you. Your credit card is an asset to you if you paid off and all that. But it's a liability when you're owing, so which is on the downside. So according to Robert Kiyosaki, I don't know if anybody here has read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I highly recommend. Fantastic book. It's unbelievable. It told stories with finances and stuff. It said assets put money in your pocket, while a liability takes money from your pocket. It's as simple as that. So that means if you have a real estate, a real property, but it's taking money out of your pocket, is a liability to you. It's a liability to you, I'm sorry to say. Except, if you can interact with financial advisors like Etim, it can give you a clearer perspective on how to either, save money, maybe change your lifestyle so that after paying your mortgage, or, some people, their goal is to pay their mortgage and the house reverting back to you. But because of that, they don't really maintain the property. If you don't maintain the property, that's also one of the factors that makes it a liability to you. So here, I'll be digressing a bit to some off points. They seem off, but they tie back in one way or the other. The reason why I'm doing this is because I want us to have a balanced perspective. Because when I talk about real estate, I say real estate is beyond real estate. It's not just about real estate. Like, look at Canada, for example. If you see Canada is going fine, it's not one sector that is going fine. All other sectors, they feed into other sectors. That's why it's going fine. We're able to sit here peacefully because other sectors are working. You understand? Like, who talked about receiving a benefit from Canada Revenue Agency? Look at that. That's a way of government showing transparency, and they're working hard to make everybody comfortable. So the reason why I brought this up is because Maslow's hierarchy of needs talks about how humans prioritize their needs. And we're going to start from the bottom here. It talks about physiological needs. Our physiological needs are air, water, or let me start from air. We need air first. All of us here, we're breathing air. We don't even think about it because it's abundant, it's free, that we don't even appreciate it. You understand? So people struggle to breathe in the hospital. They need oxygen. So those kind of people, they appreciate air even more. Then water, obviously. You can maybe last 10 minutes without air, maximum. But water, maybe 3 days or thereabout. But food, if you don't eat food, maximum a week, you probably die. The reason why I'm prioritizing this is to show you that we need all this before we now get to shelter. So some people are not even thinking about houses now. They're not thinking about accommodation because they're hungry. Like the homeless people, the beggars on the street, they're not thinking of buying a house. That's the least of their priorities. They just want to eat, They want that $2, $3 from you. You understand? So, and it goes all up to, it is when you've achieved all this, then you now think about safety, like your personal security. That's when, like people living under the bridge in Ikeja, they're not bothered about the security. They just want to be comfortable first. If they're not comfortable, talk to John, talk to you, that's when they're not like, okay, what's the next? On to the next one. So that's when you think about employment and all that. Then you move to love and belonging. That means anybody that is telling a girl, I love you, he don't chop. He's already comfortable enough to think of that. That's the next thing. You understand? So then esteem. So anybody you see that is maybe proud or is looking for someone to respect him, he has covered all the stages. He's comfortable. Then self-actualization. Then you can think of people like Jagaban. He has gotten everything he needs. And next in his presidency, so to feel, yeah, you understand? So, yeah, so the reason why, like I said, the reason why I brought this up is because I wanted to emphasize that shelter only comes as a priority when you've, moved past air, water, and food. So here we can talk about the statistics of the homeless people. We have about 150 million homeless people around the world. In the United States, about 582,000. In Canada, about 35,000 homeless people. And in Toronto, you have 62% of that. And 30% go to indigenous community. In Nova Scotia, we have about 587 homeless people. And in Halifax, We have about 477 according to 2022 data. So to give you more context, about 233 men. So this is just to show you how bad it is when it comes from the homelessness perspective. So money for real estate financing. My brother here knows more about money than me, obviously, because the way he dived into it. But I just want to give you a perspective because obviously you need money for real estate. So what is money really? Money is any medium of exchange that is accepted by people for the payment of goods, services, and repayment of loans. Do you know what that means? It said any medium of exchange that is acceptable. That means money to you might be different from what money is to the next person. Like as we're here, for example, maybe I like your shoe, you like my shoe too, we exchange. That's money in some sort of way. Do you know why that is? If you look at the evolution of money, it started by barter. That's where it used to be. People used to exchange food for services and all that, you know. So from there, it got to gold. Then it moved on to metal coins, notes, credit cards, electronic, then crypto. Not that I'm endorsing crypto, but it's obviously you've seen a lot of people paying with crypto. That means it's money to certain classes of people as well. So I came across some money theories. Like one says paper currency started in China in the 7th century. And it is also believed that goldsmiths, who were also referred to as banks in some quarters back in the day, issued receipts for the gold in their care, which later came to be used as payments, circulating from hand to hand, giving origin to paper money. Do you know what this statement is really saying is there used to be a time where people that had gold, they would store them with goldsmiths. Then goldsmiths would issue receipts to them. Then they noticed that it didn't make sense to go back and carry your gold. You could just, if you also have gold, we could all use the receipts as evidence of exchange. So that's what made it become money. So for fun fact, 50% of millennial investors choose to invest in real estate. Why? Because they noticed that there are about 223 billionaires who happen to be 10 of the world's richest. They became rich through real estate. So that means there's something that is happening in real estate that people don't really know about. So how do you invest in a multifamily property? You can purchase by cash. That's if you have cash. How many people have $1 million in cash? Then by mortgage. My brother talked about mortgage. And you can also partner with investors. Yeah, you could build. Some people choose to build, especially builders or developers. You know, you could build, if you have cash to build, fantastic. It might be a small startup. By loan, in a different way from mortgage. So there are many hard money lenders there, I'm sure you're aware. By investors. Some investors, they like to do a joint venture with you. They partner with you to buy or build real estate, and you share the proceeds. Then you can crowdfund. We talked about this earlier, where multiple people come together, they agree. It's just like the way people do, what do you call it? You know, this contributions in organizations, they come together and they try to invest in certain, cooperatives, Then securitization. These are big topics on another level that we could always do when we have time. So what is mortgage really? A mortgage is a type of loan used to purchase or maintain a home, land, or other types of real estate. The property serves as collateral for the period in which the borrower conforms with signed documents to make series of regular payments that are divided into principal and interest over a certain period. Now we're just going to do a brief touch-up on the types of mortgage. We have fixed and variable, which can also be referred to as adjustable. Interestingly, many people ask me, what is the best type of mortgage? Should we do fixed or do we do variable? This is a very interesting question. And before I delve into it, I just want to do a caveat, so to speak. Like, for example, I'm sure you're aware, like 3 years ago, during the COVID crisis or craziness, many financial experts did some projections. I'm sure you'll bear me witness, most of them were wrong because nobody knows the future. I'm glad you admitted that. Most were wrong because, number one, Well, in this generation, we've never experienced such a crisis. And number two, nobody actually knows the future. The way most financial experts predict the future is by using historical data. If it's consistent, then they can predict. So now, to fixed rate. I'm a Yoruba person, and we believe that proverbs carry words. How do they say it? So what I usually use to explain this is by saying, "Ontoni abuku kan." That's if you know what something is worth, then you can plan around it. You can strategize. You can be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to pay paying 2,000 every month. Okay, what am I going to do for the next 5 years? Okay, yeah. So when you get a mortgage, for example, and you realize that you're going to be paying a certain amount per month or thereabouts, some pay bi-weekly, there's a period called amortization period. It varies. Some are for 30 years, some are for 25 years, some 20 years, depends. Excuse me, depends. Sorry, I need a quick... Yeah, as I was saying, so the amortization period is the period you're expected to pay off all your mortgage debts. Within the amortization period are some certain periods which are usually a term of 5 years. They're called a term. So when you get a mortgage and you get a fixed rate, for example, let's say you're going to be paying at a certain rate determined by the financier that is financing you, you're going to be paying a certain amount every month for the next 5 years. If you do a fixed rate, you know what you're paying, like maybe 2,000 per month for the next 5 years. You know that, right? But it has to be renewed after that 5 years for the next term because it is assumed. I forgot the term you call it. That there's a financial maybe upheaval or something during that period where you now have to renew the policy. Maybe it's going to increase, maybe it's going to reduce. It really is up to what's happening with the government at that time. So what I usually advise people is to go for the fixed rate because you know what you're getting into, you know what you're paying. So the worst case scenario, you can plan for, okay, after 5 years, it's probably going to go higher, maybe by 1,000 or thereabout. Then you have something called a sinking fund. You prepare for it so that you don't have a shock. The reason why I'm saying this is because I'm sure you're aware there are many people that did a variable rate, and because of the craziness of the interest rate, some in the last couple of years they paid a difference of maybe over $1,000 depending on how much mortgage you're paying, which can be crazy. If you didn't have that in your budget, you could be in trouble, especially when it's difficult maybe to change your lifestyle. I know people that used to eat pizza and go to movies every weekend. Now they cut it to once a month because of certain things like this. So the professionals that are needed when you want to get a multi-family real estate, the first person that is usually on the list is arguable, but even if someone reaches out to me, they want to buy a property, the first thing I ask is, do you have a mortgage broker or mortgage advisor? Because you need to be qualified. You need to crunch your figures and tell you, you know what, this is how much you can get, this is how much you pay. So the mortgage broker for me is number one. Then a real estate professional, like I myself, I'm a realtor. My job basically is to understand your budget, your reason for wanting a specific kind of property in maybe a kind of area or multiple areas. Then I can do a search for you. We do viewing. Then I could help you do an application. Then a financial advisor for sure. You can never go wrong with a financial advisor because they have experience of looking at all the figures. Figures are like music to them. So they see patterns, so they can advise you accurately. Then a lawyer, definitely. You need a lawyer. A lawyer is going to help you look at all the wordings in the document so that you don't get trapped. There was a lady that approached me some time ago and tried to show me a contract she hadn't signed at that time. And I looked at it, but I was like, you know what? Let me introduce you to a lawyer. The lawyer can do a better job. Guess what? The lawyer came with so many red flags. It was, in fact, the contract was like a prison. If the lady had got into it, trouble. So home inspector for sure. There's some things we call latent defects in properties that you can't see with your eyes. They have to be seen with trained eyes. If an inspector looks at this space, for example, you probably want to get out of the house because they'll give you all the negativity, it has its advantages because it helps you focus on what you need to fix in the property. Then, builder, if you're building the property, then the experienced colleague, you'll be surprised. Yeah, I'm sure you have that one or two friends, they know virtually everything. They're always on Google, always on different applications. They even seem to know better than some professionals because they're so passionate about it. So a minute conversation with that experienced colleague could save you thousands of dollars or change your mind about some certain decisions. Then why should you invest in multifamily real estate? The simple, steady income. You have steady cash flow, especially if you get it right. Is an edge against inflation. This is one major characteristic of real property or real estate because despite the fact that the inflation is going up, have you seen any rent go down? The landlords are still cashing out. Appreciates in value is a leverage in investments, and you have tax benefits, just like what my brother Etim talked about, tax benefit. You can also exploit the tax system, not necessarily negative, not being a greedy person, but you could get tax breaks from it. Are there risks involved? Definitely, absolutely. There's risk everywhere. As a matter of fact, you must always prepare for risk when you're doing any investment. It's just that you should have a risk response. You understand? So, what are the risks involved? Finance capital is difficult in any circumstances to get financing if you want to go into any investment, especially real estate. It's just that the financiers, they will try to put you in a tight corner by negotiating interest rates that favor them better. Injury during construction and showing, that happens a lot. And, I'm sure you've heard of it's not demolition, collapse of buildings in Nigeria in recent years. See, those are part of the risk when you're trying to provide real estate. So you have to get the professionals to do the job properly. Liquidity risk. This basically is a way of getting cash from your investment. Sometimes it's difficult, and that's a big deal. Negative cash flow. We're still talking about the same thing. If there's a negative cash flow, like you're paying a mortgage of $5,000, and the rentals you're getting there is maybe $2,000. You're paying extra $3,000 out of pocket. That is a no. That's terrible. Problematic high vacancies. If you have a multi-unit, let's say 12 units, for example, and 8 are vacant, it could drive you crazy because that's the worst. How do you pay mortgage? You could go into foreclosure if that happens. Problematic tenants. We all know about this one. Back in Nigeria, I work with a professional real estate firm, and I know how many times, I can't count how many times I went to court, because we had problematic tenants just for something very tiny as like NEPA bill. They make it an issue, and they don't want to pay rent, and that's the worst. Then wrong location. I got a property for someone in Eastern Passage. If that property was in Bedford, it would be close to $1 million, but we got it for less than $500,000. So location determines the value of a property for sure. So what are the real estate investors' mindsets that you need? You need a winner's mindset. And number one on the list is, if you want to do it, you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe you can. You have to take action. You have to network with like-minded people. I don't know if you guys know the story of a lion. Out of a lion and a tiger, which is bigger? Who knows which is bigger? The tiger is bigger. But why is lion the king of the jungle? Yeah, because it hunts in groups, with its pride, its family. So that shows you there's a lot of energy, that concentrates together when you're with like-minded people. And I'm sure you've seen it in even music industries. They have, crew, So when one person is not hot, the other ones, they pick up the flame, So the next one, I can't say it properly. Can you please? Okay, yeah, do the work. You have to work. You cannot sit down if you want to buy real estate. It's not possible. Then you have to research the topic thoroughly. Google is your friend. Although it can have overwhelming information, but it's good to research. This is a period in our lives of DIY, especially in this northern part or western part, in Northern America. You need to research your topic thoroughly and get as much information as you want before you delve into it. And these are the references where I got my information from. And do you have any questions?
Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. You mentioned bare land. So 2 questions, actually. When you were defining real estate, you said the land plus anything on it. What about under it? That's because you can come and discover oil on my land. But that's on, I kind of know the answer to that, but that's just on a lighter note. It's government, Oluwa lo nile. Government is the Oluwa. So the other question I wanted to ask is, which would you advise? Of course, I know this is probably hinged on your ability or your pocket, but which would you advise to do more of bare land versus multi-family real estate? And also, like, when you're answering, if you can compare between in Canada versus in Nigeria, knowing that Nigeria is going to get better, so we want to get ahead of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I didn't get your name. Please.
Tosin.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Tosin, for that question. That's an interesting question, and that brings me to a real estate term that we use very often. It's called the highest and best use of land. Highest and best use of land. That means it's a strategy where you use facts and figures with maybe a financial advisor doing a projection of excellent cash flow for you from your prospective investment. So you have to weigh which you feel profits you more. And it's usually proportional because, for example, let's say I have a land in Lekki that has, maybe it's a corner piece, it has some fantastic access routes and stuff like that, and I could get approval for an event center. And event centers in Lekki probably make 5-10 million a week. You understand? So if you do the math, let's say you make 10 million a week, that's 40 million a month. Let's say you're active for 10 months. That's 400 million you're making from that. And let's say the land cost, land in Lekki now costs about maybe 200, 300 million, depending on the part. In the first year of buying it for 300 million, you already made a profit of 100 million. Right? And inversely, if you built a multi-unit there, let's say you bought the land for 300 million, it cost you 100 million to fix the property, the multi-units, maybe 10 units and maybe 1 million per unit, 10 million, you're making 10 million a month. Maybe that's in a year, 120 million. See, that's even more than what you made from that. But you have to look at the investment. What are you putting into it? How much is it costing you? So it all comes down to figures and what you feel comfortable with. So far, you can get a government approval for certain things, and the figures are right with you, and you look at the long term, is it sustainable? Because that's another key. Sustainability is key. Then you can make the decision. I can make the decision for you because you have to look at your liabilities as well. Because if you buy land for 300 million, build 100 million, if you think you'll be dealing with difficult tenants, you'll be maintaining with maybe extra 20 million every year. You know, how many of you know Balmoral in Oregon? See what they did there. I actually know the owner. Well, it used to be someone I was close to. See, they had little liabilities. It was bare land, and they just put makeshift camps or tents, and they're making cool money. And that probably makes more money I'm erecting a real property there. So that's part of the advantages of a bare land. It has its advantages being bare. It just maximizes the tendency of its money-making strategy. I'm sorry? Exactly. So it all depends on you. When you look at your figures, you will know what's more comfortable for you to do. So I think that's the. I hope that answers that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Akitunde. So my question really has to do with refinancing. So when is the appropriate time for a house owner to actually refinance? Especially if you let's say you bought a house new, as a new build. When is the best time for you to refinance, especially if you are still in your first term? And if you want to refinance, is it a good deal if you are refinancing to buy a second structure for commercial purpose, or I don't know what the law is in Nova Scotia, because I mean the first one you've already used the 5%, right? So if you want to buy the second one, I guess you're not entitled to actually buy based on 5% again. It has to be more than that. So what's the best advice in that kind of scenario?
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, that's Mr. Laulu, right?
Yep.
Okay. Oh, that's a fantastic question, but I'm gonna bring up a caveat. I'm not certified to actually advise you on financial moves. The financial advisor and the mortgage broker, that is actually their turf, right? But I'll tell you what I can tell you, what I'm authorized or certified to tell you. But before I say that, we need to realize that. Yeah.
I need you to, as the head of this issue of refinancing, you are an expert. I need you to tell us, what's your group, you will tell them.
Yeah.
But I would need you to tell us what you will tell us.
Okay.
Considering us as your brothers. Thank you.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification, Pastor George. Okay, as I was saying, it all boils down to money. It all boils down to finances.
Please, you're now our brother. And this is very, very important. And now the reason why I'm asking this question is I'm not under any pressure. However, constantly someone has been coming to my area and asking to buy our property. And this person has been to my house 3 times. 6 months.
Maybe there's gold underneath
I
your
don't
house.
know. I've been asking questions. What is this person looking for? In fact, I'm counting down right now because I have the person's contact on the fridge. The person is coming in some weeks' time. So the first time the person came around, of course, the value of the house has gone up. And it was watery to sell. And I was like, oh boy. Yeah. Take a chill pill and think about this thing. Now, the market is really, really crazy right now, and the interest rate is high. And the urge to sell is there because of what one is going to lay hold on. But, you are in this market. What is the best advice, especially when the green alert to sell is staring at you in the face like this? Thank you. So it's personal to me.
First of all, I want to ask, if you sell, you want to buy another one, right? And it's your budget still within the perceived value of what your property is currently. For example, if you want to buy a property for 600,000, are you planning to buy a property less than 600,000 or above 600,000?
Thank you. So right now, because of the interest rate, I'm looking to buy something lower than whatever I want to get.
Okay, that seems fair. But let me give you an example. During 3 years ago, thereabouts, during the COVID craziness, I'm sure you're aware, properties that were not even worth 200,000 probably sold for 500,000. And as a matter of fact, I know someone that he had two properties, he sold the two properties, made good profit, relocated to Alberta, got a property even lower in cost, had an excess of maybe $400,000 to play with. That's fantastic. It's just that many people that actually exploited that situation then, they didn't plan to. It just fell on their lap. You understand? But now we're talking about intentions. You have to be intentional about it. You probably realize people that bought, let's say someone bought his properties for 450 there about 3 years ago, and is on his fixed rates and is paying 1,500 per month. That's 1,500. You know, the same 450 property, if you buy it now, you'll be paying about 3,000. So those are the things you have to look at, because I know a bunch of people that was stranded after selling their own properties. They could not get another one to buy. Then they had to move to apartments, and many of them are still in apartments to today. So I don't want you to get carried away by the profits you're going to be making from one property. People that can cash out from this kind of situation are those that probably have 2 or 3 properties. You want to sell 1 or 2, and you cash out and you wait for the next opportunity, maybe a bubble or something. But you need to look at the figures. Like I said, it boils down to the figures. Can you afford it? Like, I tell people not to worry about interest rates. So far you can afford it, and you know what you're getting off. Just like my brother Etim said, he said you have to have a higher net returns over the credit, right? So if you have a plan B, you know that, okay, I'm selling my property for 600,000. You're probably paying less than 2,000 per month, and now you want to buy a property of 500,000, and you're going to be paying 2,500 per month. If that's okay with you, especially if it's maybe multi-unit in such a way where you have another place to rent, because that's another thing people do, which makes sense. Someone taking off your burden in terms of mortgage, yeah, fine, you can go for it. And back to the main question you asked about refinancing. I don't want to sound petty, but the truth is I've seen a lot of people that have been very over-ambitious with this housing thing. I'm not discouraging them per se, but the truth is they themselves know it's not comfortable for them. Then I know a bunch of people that are crying now because they beat more than they can chew. It's something, like my brother Etim said earlier, he talked about we being the foundation. We need to recognize that position first, because if we overburden ourselves and things don't pan out as we wish, this is Canada, this is not Nigeria. Nobody is planning to bail you out. So it boils down to your figures. Like I personally, as a realtor, I don't even pressure people. I do my advertisements. I reach out to people. I get my deals done, but not on a pressure basis. If I'm telling you to refinance because I want to make a fee off you, that's not fair. I'm not going to push you to do that. What I'm going to say is look at your figures. Does it work for you? And if you're coming with an investor's mindset, fantastic. Then you can stretch yourself. Like if you're qualified, if your mortgage broker tells you you're qualified for 500,000, for example, and you want to buy a multi-unit and that is 600, you probably can get it. So far, you can prove through facts and figures that you can pay the mortgage. You understand? I know you probably know that. So if that's your aim, fantastic. I encourage people to go for investment property because that's the way to go. Back in Nigeria, I'm sure you're aware, some of you even probably have those kind of properties, maybe block of 4 flats, you rent them all, or maybe you live in one, rent the rest. That's the idea. That's like, in fact, in Canada here, I know many realtors in my firm, they started that way as teenagers. There was one time there was no down payment here in Canada. They could get that deal done. So it's a starting thing, which is not a bad idea. I don't really advise people to buy $1 million property as a first property. No matter how rich you are, it's good to try to get into the property market first from the base. Then you'll be surprised. Just like the way Yoruba say, "Oju to farabale lo rimu." That means, if you calm enough, you can see your nose. You know, as a matter of fact, we're seeing our nose now, but because we are not calm with our eyes, we can't see it. But if you chill, then you see it. So you'll be able to see some nuances, some little things. I don't want you to feel pressured to sell your property for someone and you don't have a plan B. You have to have a plan B. Refinancing is not a bad idea at all. People take advantage of it every time. But you have to be sure that the figures work for you. You understand? Yeah.
Sorry, maybe if we go a little further and please explain to. Maybe you should go a little bit further and explain to us what refinancing really is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we really understand.
Oh, okay.
That.
I should have gone from the.
Yeah.
Okay. Basically, as the name implies, it's just you already have a mortgage. Then you want to leverage on your equity to get another mortgage.
Sorry, can you use figures for us?
Okay. Let me see.
So that we're really.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. For example, let's say you have a property of $500,000, and you've been living in it for maybe a couple of years or thereabout. Then you want to get another property by refinancing. So see, you've already committed to the system that you're consistent, you're responsible, you're paying your mortgage, they look at all that, they look at your credit history and stuff like that. Then your mortgage broker, they usually have a bunch of lenders. Some are banks, some are private lenders and stuff like that. They approach them, or when you approach them and tell them what you want to do, they let their financiers know, okay, this is the status of my client. They have a property worth $500,000. They've been paying for a couple of years. They built equity. They're responsible. Now they want another property. So what they do is something like what Etienne said earlier. They kind of expand your credit. But this time around, you're obligated to pay, I think, a minimum of 20%. You know, when you're buying, I don't know if you're aware, if you're buying property less than $500,000, you're obligated to pay a 5% down payment. But if you're buying the property above $500,000 but less than $1 million, you pay a 5% down payment for the first $500,000, then a 10% of the difference on top, like maybe a $600,000 property, you pay 5% of the $500,000, which is $25,000, then 10% of the $100,000, which is 10, so 10 plus 25. But if you're buying $1 million property, you have to pay a down payment of 20%. But inversely, when it comes to a refinancing, you cannot pay less than a 20% because they look at your equity, they look at how responsible you are or you have been by paying, and they use that to expand your credit. So let's say you're paying mortgage of $2,000 or thereabout, then on top of the next one you'll be paying, which would be maybe an extra $2,000 or maybe $3,000. So the way you can prove that you have the capacity to pay it is either is a multi-unit or I'm sure, because obviously you can't live in two houses, so it's an investment, obviously. So because they know it's an investment, they range it like a commercial, so they want more money from you. So if you understand how money works, is not that I understand 100% how money works, but basically the banks expand the credit. Maybe they got $100,000 from someone, and they look for a way to maximize it in such a way that they can get out to much people. That's why they charge you an interest. So, yeah. But you need to realize that it's a continuous conversation. It's not something you can get once. It can be overwhelming. Like I said, it's a DIY nation. So there's so much information that even we go for consistent meetings and trainings to refine maybe the new laws. And for example, I'm sure you're aware that a foreigner cannot buy a property right now here because of the availability crunch recently. And if you even buying from outside Nova Scotia, if you're not a Nova Scotia resident, you should pay an additional 5% deed transfer tax. Normally, if you want to buy a property now, apart from your 5% down payment, if it's less than $500,000, you need to pay 1.5% deed transfer tax. But if you're not a resident of Nova Scotia, it's going to be 6.5%. Do you understand what I mean? So they're using it to give Nova Scotians an edge over foreigners. So, yeah. Does that give more clarity? Yeah.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It's very insightful. Are there statutory fees that you have to pay to get a property in Nova Scotia? You've mentioned one now, the 1.5%. Aside that, are there other statutory fee? I know that you need to have your down payment that is given, but aside the down payment and the 1.5% you mentioned now, do we have any other statutory fee that you have to pay?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. And yes, to your question, a definite yes. How do I say this? Let me look for the best way to say this. I usually advise people when they want to buy a property, if it's under 500,000, apart from the 5% down payment, 1.5% de transfer tax, it's good to have an additional buffer. So in total, 8 to 10% in the bank for 3 months. Fantastic, you're in fantastic standing, because you have to pay the lawyer. You have to pay, if you're paying under 20% down payment, you need to insure. So you have to pay for mortgage insurance. You know, there's a bunch of other fees. You need to have a budget for your home inspector. You know, maybe the charge ranging between 500 and 1,000. We have a Nigerian home inspector, Michael. I don't know if you know him. He's very good. He's very thorough. In fact, Canadians like to use him when they need to see a defect in their property. So that's one of the advantages. So I advise people to have 8 to 10% buffer, so that, you know, and even moving costs, you need to factor that into your budget. When you're moving, you know, you may probably you need to get a couple of U-Hauls, or, you know, and stuff like that. There might be some damages to your, you know, personal properties and stuff. So to replace them, yes, you need to have extra. There's some extra costs that you need to pay. I probably can't remember all of them for now, but they're not too much, right? So that's why it's good to have an extra buffer, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So I have another question. Okay. It might be in two phases, but Mr. Etim advised us earlier to get out of debt as soon as possible. So, having said that, say I have a mortgage and I have investment, and the investment pays me yield. Sometimes I get like a good lump sum, right? And I've heard it being said that you can pay off your principal over time to reduce. I can't remember exactly what it is, but like it's a good idea from what I've gathered. So I don't know how feasible it is, or if it's a possibility. All these things I'm saying is theory. So when you're answering me, please answer me as theoretical, no, as practical as possible. So, so maybe I have this lump sum I came into, that maybe that yield from an investment, not like I'm throwing money away or something. Can I put that money into my, like to reduce my mortgage? I've seen people who pay off their car twice, 3 times instead of paying over this period of time. So is it possible to divert that into also real estate? And in the same vein, can one also, would you advise that one do that versus, instead of rather putting that lump sum as a down payment on another property? So from your point of view, in one hand, want to get out of debt. In the other hand, if I have a lump sum that I can reduce my debt, but can I do that, or would you advise that? Or why not just use the opportunity, have another property? As long as, I mean, in all of this, I can afford to still have another place, and so just theoretical.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sin. That's a fantastic question. This is why I like the question session. Even, you know, things that I probably would have brought up, but I didn't think about, it usually gives the opportunity to address it. So thank you very much. That's actually a fantastic question that many people grapple with and ask about from time to time. Yes, it's possible. But the thing is, this is why I encourage people to interview their mortgage advisors. You need to interview them. As a matter of fact, you need to interview any professional that is going to be working with you. Yes, you can pay, try to pay off your mortgage on time, right? But you have to have a reason. Why do you want to do that? Because I like the way you made a comparison now that would you rather do that, or should you rather do that, or go for another property? It depends on your risk appetite. And when you ask your mortgage advisor or mortgage broker or whatever, those difficult or uncomfortable questions, part of the question should be, what are the terms of your financier, as in the lender, the person providing the organization providing the funds? Yeah, because do you believe that some people, when they try to leave their current maybe mortgage, there's something they call mortgage portability. Do you remember that time? MTN, all of them. I don't port, yeah. You can also port your mortgage, but not all financiers agree to that. It's always in their term. So that's why you should ask your mortgage advisor that in case in the future I want to port, or I want to change, or I want to pay an extra, because this Western world, they're very smart with the wordings in their contracts that they can trap you. You understand? So you need to ask, and sometimes put it in writing when you're making an inquiry. You have to have a correspondence as your evidence that I might want to do this. I want to pay. If I have an extra income or whatever, I want to pay off my mortgage on time. Is it allowed? Because some, they don't allow it. There's something called mortgage penalty. They can penalize you if you choose to do some. Exactly. They'll tell you it's not part of the deal, because according to their records, they've projected how much they'll get from you for the next 30 years or 25 years. So if anything affects that, there's a problem. So you need to ask. It's possible, right? But do they allow it? Is it part of their terms? Can it, be factored into it? Because you could change some things. So about whether to rather do that than or get another property is up to you. It depends on your risk appetite. Just like we did the highest and best use comparison earlier, what do you feel comfortable with? Do you have that, strength or time or resources to? Some people use their other property for Airbnb. They're comfortable with it. I know someone that cleans himself, does everything himself, with his family and all that of his Airbnb. So if you can go that extra mile, fantastic. If you want to get an extra property, because some people, well, I'm sure you're aware that in this Western world, they don't want you to pay cash. Number one, maybe because they feel you're not financially intelligent. It's just like, okay, you want to buy a property of 500,000 and you have 500,000. Then you put it down. They'll look at you. They'll be like, where did you get the money? Why are you dropping all this money? You can maximize it by doing other stuff. You could do a mortgage, or if you buy it, they expect you to get your money back, to mortgage your house again so you can maximize. They're always talking about maximize, like they like you more than you. There's always a catch, So, yeah, in as much as you don't want to go into debt, you have to look at your own debt appetite. That, can I do this? If you look at your figures and you're sure you can do the tenant wahala, because tenancy can be a big problem. Some people, I know someone that cried to me that his tenant has not paid for the past 3 months. That happens. So you need to look at all those risks. Are you ready to do that? Like, you have a property now, then you get another one, and your rent is going smoothly, fantastic. But the day there's a problem, you'll feel bad that you make that decision. So it's up to you. If your mission is to pay off your debt, your mortgage on time, good. If it's to get into more debt so that you can get more investment, that's also good. So it's really up to you. Nobody can tell you this is the better one. It's difficult to say.
Yeah, thank you very much for all these answers you are providing. I want to know, what is your experience with respect to crowdfunding? What are the advantages? What are the challenges? And what is your opinion about it?
Thank you very much. That's also a fantastic question. How do I say this? It's always a good idea when the people that are doing it together know them all more around. They understand themselves. They understand their financial capabilities, liabilities. You need to be transparent with one another. It's just like, I don't know if anybody has done actual ajo, like apart from cooperative, a group of people maybe at work, you just let's be doing ajo now. If some people, they like to carry first. Every time they carry first this year, they carry, and you be like, what's going on here? You understand? So you have to have an agreement or credibility and transparency, so that if anything is going to go wrong, it's not going to be your fault. It's going to be the investment. So it's always been fantastic. Most successful business, because nobody can do it alone. No matter how rich you are, you can't do things alone. Dangote, they say, is the richest black man. But if you look at his liabilities, you'll be surprised. Don't get me wrong, I'm not shaming him or anything like that. But the truth is, despite the fact that he's the richest person, he's also the biggest creditor, because he doesn't use his own money for his investment. Never. A true businessman would never do that. That's a huge risk. Although in 2004, Mel Gibson, he did a movie, Passion of the Christ. I'm sure you saw it. He used his own money, $30 million, but he said he knew it was a risk he was willing to take. If that was all the money he had, I'm sure he wouldn't do that. But because he had extra, but fortunately for him, the movie grossed over $600 million. So that was a fantastic investment. So if you can see the future and you know it will work, fine. So crowdfunding is fantastic. Like I said about Lions, Pride of Lions, you have the same goal. You have the mission definition. When you have the same mission and it's just like when lions are hunting, I don't know how to do it. In fact, they use this example in Harvard that they know the gazelle they're going for. There are a million gazelles going, but they've communicated that that's the one we are going for, that weak one that is not running well. And they clamp on it, and they all share it. Although lion takes the lion's share. But, you understand? So it's to agree and know what you want. Like, for example, maybe 50 people in this church, for example, you agree that, okay, we want to buy this $1 million property. We know that from this $1 million property, we can make $100,000 next year. Fantastic. It's now up to you if after you make the profit, you want to share the profit or you want to reinvest and have a long-term goal, maybe 5, 10 years and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's always a fantastic idea. Like I said, if everybody's on the same page.
Okay, thank you very much for the expository teachings. You've made so many valid points, like having your 5%, your 1.5%, and having a buffer account for extra expenditures or unforeseen expenditures. For a newcomer, just in addition to this you've said, can you just take me through the journey? What should you know first, and at what information should you start from and then progress to get a property for yourself, and what could be the projection and some of the challenges?
Thank you. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
My name is Kingsley.
Oh, Mr. Kingsley. That's my uncle's name. Thank you. Okay. Before I go on, I want you to know that this is a continuous conversation. You can't get it all in one day. It's impossible. Everybody is, getting more updated by the day. And another thing you should know is no two people have the same circumstances when they're buying property. No, it doesn't happen. It might seem similar, but trust me. Okay, for example, I won't tell you my credit history or credit score or whatever. That's for the professionals that are trying to help me facilitate my deal is doing. So, yeah, basically the first thing, you need to check yourself. Am I good? As in, what's your financial standing? Like, do you have a job or a business? They usually require you to have either a permanent job or a consistent business of income inflowing for about 2 years if you have a business. So if they can use that as a projection. Okay, you know what? For the past 2 years you've been doing well. That means there's a possibility you keep doing well. So they take the risk on you, and your mortgage broker will advise you on that. Then you need to have your down payment for at least minimum of 3 months in the account, to show that you're ready to deal. Then, like I said, either permanent job or business. But it's your mortgage broker that will screen you
for all that. Your mortgage broker is going to check your finances, check your debt profile, crunch your figures, and tell you, you know what? I can get you a good deal at 5%. This is the property. If you buy this property, this is the maximum amount of property you can buy. This is your cutoff point, maybe 500,000, depends. And you probably pay a monthly mortgage of 3,000. Are you good to go? Are you comfortable with that? That's why it's always good to have support from your spouse because they deal with household income. Some people even include their children to their mortgage. It works for them. You understand what I'm trying to say? So, yeah, that's the first basic step. So, I, as a realtor, what I'll do for you is I'll set up a real-time listing search for you. Like there's something we call the collaboration center. Is a universal Paragon application, which is used by Canada and America, where you see real-time listings. You tell me the area you want, your budget, the type of property. Some are very, adamant to saying, I want to fully detached. That's a property standing on its own. Some don't mind semi-detached. Some want a multi-unit. It's really, really up to you. So I use that detail to do the search for you. Then in your email, you see them in real time. Then you communicate. You say, I like this one. When can we see it? When we see it and you like it, then we'll do an offer. When I do an offer for you, if the offer is accepted, we set some timelines. Like, you know what? By so date, we'll do the inspection. You hire an inspector, and it will be based on condition of finance. That's when your mortgage broker reaches out to you that, yes, I can get the funding for you for this property. So if your inspector checks the house, no house is perfect. It's going to see something. Something is happening in the basement. Something is happening in the roof. If it's something you can't deal with, that's going to cost an extra $5,000, $10,000. We'll communicate to the agent. Please tell your seller that our buyer doesn't want this. He thinks you should fix this, thinks you should fix that. If for example, generically, roofs have a lifespan of 25,000, kind of roofs that is common. So if they've been using the roof for 24 years, that means to expire next year. So you tell the seller or the agent of the seller, are you ready to change the roof, or you deduct the money from the amount? If the seller is, I don't know if desperate is a good word, but if the seller is motivated, you'll be like, okay, you know what, let's meet in the middle. It's going to cost $15,000. I'll give you $7,000. If you think it's a reasonable offer, you go for it. And you do all the documentations. The lawyer is going to do the vetting, and you're good to go. Then we'll close, we'll drink wine, and I'll join you when you're moving, and yeah, that's it basically.
And collect your money.
Well, that's a given.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the major reasons why we decided to have this meeting today, it's because we were thinking of a multifamily. So as a church, as men's fellowship, we decided that we should begin to look at an investment opportunity in multifamily. And so